Today on New England Living, we're heading to Massachusetts' North Shore for a look at some of our region's storied past. First, we stop by America's antique capital to learn the time-honored art of antiquing. Then it's off to the Witch City for a tour of Salem's most historic houses. And we stop at a local distillery serving up creative cocktails with a twist. Plus, Boston's own Joanne Chang joins us in the test kitchen to show off her newest take on a classic favorite. It all starts right now on New England Living. New England has a style all its own. The people, the history, the culture. Join us as we discover the faces and places, the design and destinations, everyone and everything that makes New England extraordinary. This is getting a little spicy. Love the place you call home with New England Living. Thanks for joining us today on New England Living. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. First up, we're heading to the North Shore to learn the time-honored art of antiquing. Here in Essex, a place known for its antique shops and local charm, one man's trash is another man's treasure. But how do you go about discovering that treasure? We're here to find out. North Shore native and renowned designer Kathy Marshall joined me for a stroll through America's antiques capital. We're here in Essex, Massachusetts, and it seems like everywhere you turn, there's an antique shop.
Oh my gosh.
Why is that?
Well, you know, I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because Essex, Mass is really where shipbuilding started, so there's a lot of antique homes here and antique dealers.
Well, you know it's good for antiques when they nickname one of the streets Antique Alley.
Yeah.
Where is your favorite store to go into?
One of my most favorite places to go is David Nelligan's Antiques. With David, you know you're really getting a great curated piece. He's gonna have the provenance of where the piece is from, and he buys only what he likes, and what he likes is gorgeous.
I've been in the business now for quite a few years, and I've developed great connections. I travel a lot around the country. I get called in to look at estates. It's very difficult to pass up buying opportunities.
So this is David Nelligan's shop. He has two here in Essex, and this shop is jam-packed with great items, a lot of decorative items. This is where I would come to find that perfect piece.
So Kathy, you have your bag of essentials that you take with you antiquing. It helps you along the way. I've been dying to know. What's in there?
I actually leave it in my car because I'm always stopping and antiquing along the way, but a must-have is a tape measure.
Okay.
I have a lot of other things in here. I have like my notebook, I have sample fabrics, I have plans that I'm working on, and of course a well-charged phone.
And for someone like me who doesn't go antiquing, you walk in the store, it is overwhelming. Where are you looking at first?
It is overwhelming. This shop is jam-packed with gorgeous things. For instance, take these. This is a French toll, great color, great shape. I would use this for flowers. Put it in, yep, bathroom, kitchen, it's fabulous. Another thing I always look for is all right, so look at this guy. He's unbelievable. I'm not sure what he is. I think he's a squirrel. He's so fun. This would be in a small, like a city dweller. You'd have like a great chair. This is a great drinks table. You know, you don't want to be too serious about things. There's a lot of serious things in here, but there's something like this that's super fun. You know, you shouldn't be intimidated. Ask questions, and first of all, train your eye to go to what you like. Like, if you see this room, like, what are you gravitating towards? What do you like?
You know, my eye is instantly drawn to this guy.
Oh, yeah.
What could we do with him?
Yeah, I mean, he's really great. I mean, this is a crab bronze. I would put this on a coffee table with some great books. He could be in a coastal bathroom. I mean, he pretty much could go anywhere. Well, and that's a great place to start too in terms of antiquing, because if you're just starting out, you might want to find one great piece.
And one of the things that's really surprised me about today is how much fun it is to go antiquing, because there is so much to see. I mean, I could spend hours in this store, so
Totally.
What would you say to someone who's never been antiquing before about just the process of doing it?
Oh, it's the most fun thing to do. Just to come up to a spot like Essex, go out to lunch, go for a stroll, meander into the different shops. There's different kinds of shops that are here. It's a fun day.
And you really learn stuff about your style too, because I am liking some really strange things in here.
There are design goals, but if you find something that you really love, then you throw those rules out and do that with everything that you buy, and before you know it, your house will be amazing.
After a few great finds at our first stop, Kathy and I headed out in search of some more hidden gems.
So Rachel, now we are at David Nelligan's second shop. As you can see, this is a really fabulous place. We're gonna see a lot of furniture. Come on inside and I'll show you what we have.
I would love to.
My advice when I come into a shop like this is get acquainted with the space. Walk around, let your eye take it in, then do another pass, and then see what happens.
According to Kathy, there's an easy way to integrate antique design with contemporary style.
So a lot of times I bring fabrics with me, and this is a perfect example. This is a beautiful old antique. It's great scale, size, love everything about it. The color's perfect. But if I want to elevate it and bring it into a more modern look, using some of these great fabrics like this. This is actually a gorgeous zebra fabric. It's really kind of a timeless print, but it's fun and it brings it more modern. You know, it really complements this old piece and brings it forward.
For owner David Nelligan, his love for antiques started at an early age.
Well, I grew up on a farm in Connecticut, and I collected bottles. That kind of led to a passion for collecting and history.
And here we are, almost 30 years later.
Yeah, and still accumulating.
From America's antiques capital to America's witch city, we're in Salem, Massachusetts to check out a local business putting a new spin on an old tradition. This is Deacon Giles. With craft breweries on the rise, co-founder Ian Hunter decided to focus his efforts on opening a local craft distillery.
We opened on Halloween weekend of 2015 and started with our white rum called Liquid Damnation and our original gin, and have been slowly and steadily adding to our lineup since then. We now have a couple of different gins, 3 different rums, a vodka, and a number of experimental single batches that we produce. We also added some canned cocktails in the past year. The canned cocktails really solved a problem for us of being able to offer something that people can take with them where they don't have to do the mixing themselves. We've got 3 out at the moment, our gin and tonic, vodka soda cranberry, and our rum and ginger beer, which is the Wicked Stomach Head. Kind of bringing a little bit of Massachusetts somewhere else is kind of that goal.
Fun names, and there's also a lot of fun artwork everywhere on the labels, and especially if you come here, there's a huge mural on the wall. Can you tell us about that?
The mural on the wall is from the original Deacon Giles story, a story written in 1835 here in Salem. The short version is that Amos Giles was an impious man who distilled rum on the Sabbath, paid his workers in liquor, and sold Bibles from his counting room, and one day accidentally hired a gang of demons to operate his distillery. Turns out they were sent to play a trick on him to teach him about his evil ways and branded his barrels with messages of damnation that glowed with an unholy light when they were tapped. And that was really our inspiration for all of our artwork going forward. So we sort of bring that woodcut feel into all of our labels that we produce.
So how does distilling in New England create a more distinctive spirit?
We want the big temperature swings that we see from summertime to wintertime, because that's going to influence the barrels, help them swell and contract, and draw the spirit into the pores of the wood and then express it back out. So it plays a big role in the aging timeline for us.
So you're focused on right here in Salem, but actually New England in general has a really rich history in distilling, is that correct?
Absolutely it does, particularly rum. Rum was America's first spirit. Believe it or not, even in the early 1800s, there were as many as 7 rum distilleries just in the city of Salem alone, over 70 in Massachusetts, more than 100 throughout New England. Basically, if there was a port, there was a rum distillery. We want to try and honor that history with the products that we produce. We use 100% molasses as the base for our rum because that's what was used back in those days.
In the Speakeasy Lab, customers can try cocktails they won't find anywhere else.
When we first opened the distillery, we were just using this as a tasting room. And about a year in, we decided to expand the program and develop cocktails. It's the best way for us to introduce our product.
Jesse Brenneman is co-founder and chief alchemist at Deacon Giles.
So this is really the heart of operation. It's what sets us apart. This is basically essentially where we start with a fermented wash and turn it into alcohol.
And one of the other things that separates you from other places is all the ingredients that you use. This is for your original gin, and that looks pretty complex.
It is. We use quite a few ingredients, more so than I think your average gin. We start with some grains as the base, then we add juniper, coriander, cardamom, a couple of citrus spices, as well as rose hips, mace, and then angelica root, which is one of my favorites.
Jesse also loves to find new ways to create unique flavor profiles.
Typically, we don't barrel age our original gin. So this is a quick experiment we're going to try out. We took a batch of our original gin, put it into one of our used oak barrels, and we're going to pull some samples here and try it out.
What's sticking out to me is actually a caramel flavor.
Exactly, yeah, that's going to be imparted by the caramelized sugars from the wood.
Oh, okay, it all makes sense. It's really good. Cheers.
We have two rules here, and one is to make better booze, and the other one is to tell damn good stories doing it.
Coming up after the break, we're staying right here in Salem for a special tour of some of America's most historic homes. So don't go anywhere. New England Living will be right back. When you think of Salem, you may think of Halloween, but the city offers so much more, like the Peabody Essex Museum. In a city rich with history, they're redefining what it means to go to the museum. Amongst its many accolades, PEM, or PEM for short, is one of the largest art museums in the country outside of a major city. But according to Director of Communications Whitney Van Dyke, this isn't your typical museum.
PEM always pushes the envelope about what you can expect about a museum experience. It's the oldest continuously operating museum in the whole country. It was founded by ship captains in 1799, and ever since then, it's become an epicenter of art and culture on the North Shore of Massachusetts.
What makes PEM so unique?
Well, PEM is unique not only for its incredible collections of art that you can experience in the museum, but the museum's campus also includes more than 20 historic house properties that are dappled around historic Salem, Massachusetts.
And heading PEM's historic structures and landscapes is Stephen Mallory, who took me for a special tour through historic downtown Salem. This place is really a history buff's dream, where you can look at the artwork, you can go inside the building, but it's really so much more than that. It's so interactive with all the historic homes that you own.
That's exactly right. We're in a unique position where you can see Chinese porcelain and paintings and furnishings and hear stories about the people who created them or brought them here. And then you can walk right across the street and go into houses where they were actually used. Of those, most of them are listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and 4 of them are National Historic Landmarks, which is like the ultimate pedigree for an American historic structure.
What's your favorite part about working at PEM?
Well, I think it's the synergy between being an art museum that also is a steward to these what are major local and national historical landmarks, and really being able to have the opportunity to bring them even more back to life and connect them to the community.
The first stop on our tour, the iconic John Ward House.
This is the John Ward House. It's one of 2 authentic 17th century houses that the Peabody Essex Museum owns. The floor plan of the interior is essentially intact from the 17th century. And the thing to really pay attention to when you're inside is the exposed timber frame, because it's really a work of art of 17th century New England architecture.
With its low ceilings and preserved artifacts, walking inside feels like taking a trip back through time. And just steps away from the John Ward House sits another 18th century home full of history.
This is the Crown and Shield Bentley House. It's one of our historic properties, built in 1727 to 29 for John Crown and Shield, who was a merchant. The more important story of this house is the story of the Reverend William Bentley. So much of what we understand about Salem's history in the late 18th and early 19th century, that early national period, we get from his diaries. A lot of rooms are in substantially original condition. The floor plan is the same as it was. The woodwork is, for the most part, all there. And the house is actually furnished according to historic documents.
Set up exactly as it was when it was first occupied, this house is kept in pristine condition with colonial decor around every corner. And right next to the Crown and Shield Bentley House lies one of Salem's largest and best preserved historic properties. So we're here at the Gardner Pingree House. This is definitely one of the biggest houses we've seen today. What's the history behind this one?
The Gardner Pingree Mansion is really one of the great jewels of Salem. It was built for John Gardner in 1804, and it was designed by Salem architect Samuel McIntyre. It's considered probably the finest example of his architecture that survives today and considered his masterwork. The furnishing plan is based on historical documents and contains many pieces that actually are original to the house.
One walk through this beautiful home and you're immediately immersed in the elegance and style of the time.
Next stop is the Ropes Mansion, which is about a 2-block walk away from here.
I'm excited for this one because it has ties to one of my favorite movies, so let's check it out. A short walk over to Salem's McIntyre district, we find one of the city's most recognizable historic landmarks. We're finally here at the Ropes Mansion, and of all the visitors that this house gets per year, how many of them want to see this house because of Hocus Pocus?
Well, you can't deny that part of that is connected to the movie, but also it has a lot to do with the fact that this is a neighborhood asset that has these incredible grounds that are open to the public from dawn to dusk, 7 days a week.
And what does the inside of this house look like?
It's preserved the way that it was when two sisters, Mary and Eliza Ropes, returned from the Midwest in the 1890s. So when you go through the house today, you'll see it kind of frozen in time to the early 20th century, but with generations of family artifacts. So you get this kind of complete picture of house, landscape, history, furnishings. It's really quite an experience.
And if you'd like to experience a piece of Salem's history for yourself, visit PEM.org for details about their historic homes and upcoming tours. It's time now to go around New England for a look at some noteworthy museums that are worth the visit. Step into medieval times with a trip to the Hammond Castle Museum in Gloucester, complete with a drawbridge and bell tower. If you're up for it, sign up for a candlelight tour and visit the castle after dark. The Heritage Museums and Gardens in Sandwich is the largest public garden in southern New England. Located on 100 acres, it offers a little of everything, from traditional museum galleries to spectacular gardens and nature trails. Along Rhode Island's coastline, learn the art of the car with a visit to the Newport Car Museum, featuring a private collection of more than 75 vehicles focusing on 7 decades of automotive design. Up in Maine, the Ogunquit Museum of American Art was founded in 1953 and houses a collection of American artwork dating back to the late 1800s. The museum and its 3 acres of sculpture gardens overlook the Atlantic Ocean. And in Salem, New Hampshire, America's Stonehenge is argued to be the oldest man-made construction in the United States, estimated to be over 4,000 years old. The site is an accurate astronomical calendar that can still be used to this day. For more notable places to explore around New England, visit cbsboston.com/New England Living. After the break, the legendary Joanne Chang joins me in the test kitchen to show off her latest creation when New England Living returns. Welcome back to New England Living. Up next, Chef Joanne Chang shows off her latest recipe for her world-famous sticky buns. A Harvard graduate who left a career as a management consultant to enter the world of professional cooking, Joanne Chang's resume is as long as the lines to get into her bakeries. She's authored 5 cookbooks, opened multiple flour bakeries, co-founded Myers & Chang, and won a James Beard Award for Outstanding Baker. With a passion for her craft and a hunger for creativity, it's no wonder Joanne Chang has taken the baking world by storm. We are here at the Clark Sub-Zero and Wolf Test Kitchen, and I am joined by Joanne Chang. We are so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So Joanne, you're the co-owner of Flour, and I don't know where you find the time, but you're now on your 9th location this year.
We are so excited. Can't wait.
So we can pretty much find Flour Bakery all over Boston.
We're trying to fill Boston with all the flours we can.
And we thank you for that. What are we making here today?
So today we're making something out of my new book, Pastry Love. We're very famous for our sticky buns. We actually beat Bobby Flay in a throwdown many years ago, and so what I did was I took a New England version of the sticky bun, and I actually make a New England apple cider sticky bun with apple cider and local apples.
This sounds delicious. And does it matter what kind of apple or just any apple?
No, we like to use a local apple. So if you go apple picking, then definitely use those apples for this sticky bun.
Okay, so you beat Bobby Flay doing this. I need to know how this is done. So
Fabulous.
Where do we start?
So we start off with making the goo. The goo is the secret sauce of the sticky bun. It's what makes it really gooey and delicious. And then for this New England version, we actually make the goo with apple cider. So we start off with butter and brown sugar, and then we take apple cider that's been macerated with a lot of different spices, and we actually take the apples themselves and macerate them in with the apple cider. And once we've made the goo, we pour it into the baking pan.
I love the name goo, by the way. I don't know why, but it sounds delicious.
It's so
Just
gooey,
goo.
which is why we call it goo.
Exactly. And then where do we go from there?
So from there, what we do is we make a brioche dough, which is a really rich French buttery dough. And then it sits overnight, and then once it comes out of the fridge, you can actually roll it out. It's sort of like Play-Doh. And you can roll it out, and we roll it out into a rectangle. We take a cinnamon sugar and sprinkle it over the rectangle. Then we take those apples, those local apples that have been macerated with the New England cider, and then we sprinkle that over the brioche. We roll the brioche into like a jelly roll, and then we cut spirals. The spirals of the sticky buns actually go into the goo, and then they sit out for about 2 to 3 hours, and in that time they get really light and fluffy. And when they're light and fluffy, that's when they're ready to go in the oven.
Okay, so while those bake and we have a little bit of time, I do want to find out more about your New England roots because you have such a unique journey. You actually started at Harvard.
I did.
So how did you end up here?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Texas and went to Harvard and studied applied math economics. But when I was in college, I actually baked chocolate chip cookies on a regular basis for my friends to the point where they called me the chocolate chip cookie girl. I loved baking so much, and when I graduated from college, I spent 2 years as a management consultant. And at the end of my second year, I just thought to myself, what do I really love to do? And that is, I love being in the kitchen. So I got a job in a restaurant, and the first day I stepped into a professional kitchen, that's when I knew I was meant to be a chef.
So Harvard on the resume, it's already impressive enough. Then you add 5 cookbooks, then you add 9 flour bakeries. But I think one of the most impressive things about you is you have run 16 Boston marathons. How did you do that?
When I was in college and baking all of those cookies, I needed a way to kind of figure out how to work off the calories. And I had started running, and I fell in love with running. And I ran my first marathon as a senior in college and decided I'm going to run every single Boston marathon until I retire. Of course, 16 marathons later, my body said, maybe now you should stop running marathons. So I did stop in 2006, but I still love cheering on the marathon runners.
Looks like you've been pretty busy since then. So I have heard a lot about these sticky buns. I would love to give them a try.
I can't wait for you to try them. These look fantastic.
So we
Look
are
at them,
done.
yes.
Look at that. I wish you could smell this.
Oh my
because
gosh.
it smells so good.
They're so great. Okay, so now the best way to do this without making a huge mess is I just actually take a spoon and I undo them like this.
Look at that goo.
All that goo. And then there's extra goo, and the extra goo we're gonna spread on top as well.
As much goo as possible,
right?
please. And because there are apples in here, it does feel a little healthier somehow.
Sure,
We're
Rachel.
gonna tell ourselves that. This looks
You're right.
phenomenal.
Okay, you wanna give me a plate and I'll give you some. And I'm excited for you to try those.
Okay,
Go
is there
ahead and dig
a
in.
neat way to do this? Maybe with a fork?
I
We're
think
gonna
maybe
do our
a
best.
fork, sure. So hopefully you can taste the cider and the apples.
Whoa,
So delicious?
that is so good.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm so
Oh
glad
my
you enjoyed
goodness.
them.
This is incredible. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. You can find this recipe in Pastry Love. And you can find out more about Joanne and what she's up to next on cbsboston.com/New England Living. Thank you so much. This is
Thank you.
phenomenal.
I'm
gonna
so
have
glad
some
you
more.
love it. Excellent.
Thanks for joining us on New England Living. For more on the show or anything you've seen here today, visit us at cbsboston.com/New England Living and follow us on social media. And don't forget to check out the latest edition of New England Living magazine on newsstands now. I'm Rachel Holt. See you next time on New England Living.